Hi guys, this is the second part of our Excel tutorial for Lab 4. In this video, we're basically going to be going over how to make some of the plots for your homework. And basically, if you recall from last video, what we were doing is playing around with some of these statistics and then calculating our t-values that we need for statistical hypothesis testing, right? So we're going to be borrowing a lot of these values that we calculated in order to do our plots with. So first things first, if you look to the fourth sheet of the spreadsheet I sent out, there should be these nice tables kind of laid out for you. And these let you arrange your data in a way such that plotting is super, super easy. So first step is obviously you want to make sure that you get these tables filled. It's pretty intuitive, but it does take a little bit of time. I've got this pre-filled one as an example that we're going to be working today, but I'm just going to fill in a couple of these rows to show you what the process is like. So say we're working on this number of flowers table, right? And for treatment one, we would go to our first sheet, which represents treatment one, of course. We would go to our second component, right, number of flowers. We would select our two means. So in this case, they're 4.3 and 0.5. We would go over to our plots sheet, and then because we used a formula to calculate those, we want to make sure that we're only pasting the values here, right? So if we right click on a cell and we go to paste special, there's this option to paste just the values, which is what we want to do. So 4.3 and 0.5, again, those are our means. Then we go to our standard error and we do the exact same thing. Go back to our plot sheet, paste special, and then we only want the values. We then highlight these four rows and we actually input them into our table. And we do this by using, again, paste special. And then instead of using the values, we want to use transpose in this case to get them from being oriented vertically to being oriented horizontally like this. So you would repeat this basically for treatment two, treatment three, and then of course the number of leaves table as well. So moving on to actually how to do these plots once you have these tables kind of set up properly. First thing you want to do is you want to highlight the first three columns. So the column that has your row names, right? The green mean column and the yellow green mean column, right? So highlight those three and make sure you include this column, this header to your table as well. Those are going to give us our series names, which means we don't have to add them at a later time. But essentially, we go to insert, we insert ourselves a scatter plot, and for the most part, this looks pretty okay. There's a couple of different things that I don't really like about this. First of all, is the axis, which is kind of a byproduct of scatter plots typically not being used when you have a discrete x variable, but we're not going to care too much about it right now. We're just going to edit it a little bit so that it looks a little bit nicer, right? Primary thing is I want to get rid of that like half interval that they have, which is a little bit annoying, I think. I just don't think it looks very nice. So it's very, very simple. We format our axis by right clicking on it, right? And then we set our maximum bound to 4 and our major unit to 1. This lets us make those changes, and you can see it's a lot more clean now. This is probably the best we can do just because, like I mentioned before, this is typically not what a scatter plot would be used to represent. But it is what it asks for in your post lab, so that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so now that we have that kind of set up, we can worry about the next step, which is adding our standard errors, right? So this is fairly simple. If you click on the graph, you'll see this chart design tab pop up, right? So what we want to do is we want to add a chart element. We add chart element, and there's this option for an error bar. We add the standard error bars for now, but we're going to be playing around with this a little bit. So first things first, we want to get rid of our horizontal error bars because we don't need those in this case because our x-axis is obviously a discrete categorical variable. And the next thing is we want to actually specify what these error bars represent, right? So right now, they're supposed to represent standard error, but the actual formula that Excel uses to calculate standard error is a little bit different than the one we use for our purposes. And so we can change that super easily by adding a custom error bar value. We specify our values, and then it gives you these options for positive and negative error bars, right? So because we're working with our red series right now, which is our yellow-green, we go ahead and we select our yellow-green standard errors, right? So our positive and our negative values are going to be the same, right? And then that actually lets us Looks like been a little bit of a problem. Sometimes I find it be as best to just start from scratch. So you just say equal, and then that looks a lot better. Once we have that set up, we click OK, and then our error bars are now what they should represent. And we will do the same thing for our green error bars as well, our green morph error bars. And so again, specify value. You start with just the equal sign, and then we highlight the standard errors we want to include. Again, our positive and our negative error bar values are the same, so just input the same cells into those two options. And there we go. This plot is pretty much ready. Only thing that's left is to kind of play around with this chart title a little bit, add axis labels if you want. But yeah, this is pretty much all you need to do, and you would repeat this 3 times to the 3 components that we're making plots for. I hope you guys find this helpful. And of course, if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out and I'll help in any way that I can.